How are attitudes different at like this time of year than maybe after the roster seems more set?
Well, guys are always competing for positions. If you're not competing for a place on the roster, you're competing for a place in the 18, or you're competing for a place to get onto the starting 11. So you're always competing. So from that standpoint, it doesn't really change. Our decisions were really, we wanted to make sure that we gave people an early enough. Once we had come to a decision, that we gave them an early enough information, so that maybe they had the possibility to catch on with another team and move on to another team.
He also implied that sort of center back is sort of the dam that if it breaks one way or another could affect then how many midfielders, how many forwards, and so forth. What kind of is some of the things you consider in just the numbers by line, and particularly with the wild card of the expectation of Torres' return at midseason?
Yeah, I mean it breaks down to our final numbers. Midfielders are the most versatile group. So a lot of times, if you're going to hold an excess, you try and hold an excess of midfielders, because a lot of times a midfielder can play in the back or whatever. So, but we also look at our team and we say, okay, who can play in different positions? So can one of our forwards really play midfield if we need it? Can one of our midfielders play in the back if we need it? And that's going to determine that final, breakdown between, is it 9 defenders and 8 midfielders and 8 forwards? That might shift around by 1 or 2, in either direction.
Thank you. Anything from you?
It's just a preseason, but how intense is a matchup with the Timbers looking at it tomorrow?
It's always a fun game. It's obviously the rivalry has been long established, and there's always a little bit of edge going into that game. But I think both teams also know it's preseason, and so they're probably mixing and matching their lineup a little bit. We're maybe doing the same, and you just see how players play. You're trying to evaluate players, but it's a great game to evaluate players in, because there's a good level of spirit and intensity.
And I'm looking ahead to next week. How much is playing a Mexican side, Celaya, right before the Champions League? How much does that help you guys prepare?
It helps us because just the style of play is a little bit different, than it is here. There's, one of the things that's really changed in MLS over the years is just the diversity of styles of play from one team to another. I think in my early years in MLS, every team sort of played somewhat the same. Now you definitely have teams that play differently, and so it's good to get exposed to that different style. And obviously the teams in Mexico play a little bit differently, sometimes because of the heat, sometimes because of the altitude, makes them slow the game down a little more. And it's good for our team to play against a team that plays with that sort of a passing rhythm that's more atypical of how they play in Mexico.
And do you know when Jordan Morris might be joining the team? Do you think he might be available for that match?
He's got a game tonight. Got a game tonight, and then he's coming in with us on Saturday. Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance fans actually get a look at him on Tuesday?
We'll see. A lot depends how much he plays tonight, how he feels, when he comes in here, and then we'll make that decision, But obviously we'd like to get him out there a little bit.